Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening. Thank you so much for joining us today for this very important presentation webinar regarding DACA. My name is Hector Oviedo. I'm the Human Rights Manager here at Alliance San Diego. Before we begin the webinar and the presentation, I did want to tell you a little bit about the functions regarding Zoom. I'm sure we're all very familiar, but a quick reminder, this doesn't hurt. There is a chat box in the bottom for you to provide comments. And there's also a Q&A section. We will be checking this Q&A section at the end of the presentation to answer any questions that you guys might have. So please type in your questions there. My colleague Erika, who I'll introduce a little bit afterwards, will be reading those questions to me so that we can answer all your questions, okay? I am gonna go ahead and share my screen. 1 second. All right. So once again, thank you so much for being here to our presentation regarding the future of the DACA program and what you can do now, or anyone you know that might have DACA can do now. First, we're gonna review who we are, who Alliance San Diego is. We are a community organization whose mission is to build collective power to create a more inclusive democracy. Our vision for that is an inclusive democracy where all people can achieve their full potential in an environment of harmony, safety, and equality and justice. Our core values as an organization are those of inclusion, compassion, justice, collaboration, and integrity. And who will you be talking to today? You will be talking to our human rights team. That would be me. My name, like I said already, is Hector Oviedo. I am a Department of Justice fully accredited representative and the Human Rights Manager here at Alliance San Diego. Michelle Soleri, who is our immigration attorney and our director, is off today. But we both comprise the human rights team here in Alliance San Diego. And what does the human rights team do? We have two main focuses on the services we provide. One focus is education and outreach, like we are doing today, which is presentations to our own pool of people and community that we've built over the years, or to other organizations or groups who have contacted us requesting for a presentation to be done, presented to their clientele. And the education and outreach can be on any topic. We've done naturalization in the past. We've done temporary protective status, know your rights, and like today, DACA. So the other part of the Human Rights Department services that we provide are legal services. So we are a Department of Justice accredited organization, and that means that we can represent people before United States Citizenship and Immigration Services, so before immigration. So we actually provide full legal representation on many types of cases, including but not limited to DACA, like we're talking about today, naturalization, things like green card renewals, temporary protected status applications, and of course, we provide basic immigration consultation so that you can be familiar with your own case. So what are we going to talk about today? Today's topics are about DACA. And so we're going to talk about what the state of DACA is today. We're going to talk about what are the differences currently between a DACA renewal and an initial DACA application, how that's processed. We're also going to talk about the future of DACA, which is the big topic today. We're going to talk about that court case that is pending and coming soon. We're going to talk about regulations and legislation regarding the future of DACA. And another very important point that we're going to touch on is what you as a DACA holder or as a DACA advocate, what you can do now. And we're going to primarily focus on you, the person that has DACA. So we're going to talk about a couple of options outside of DACA, like advanced parole. We're going to really touch on that subject and what it means, what advanced parole is. And we're also going to talk about what other immigration options could be available to DACA recipients that maybe they don't know about. Those are going to be the main points for our presentation. So state of DACA today. The current status of DACA is that July of last year, to be precise, July 16th of 2021, a federal district court in Texas issued a ruling in a case called Texas v. US, which limited the DACA program and it declared it unlawful. This case is currently on appeal with the Fifth Circuit. So this is the court case that will be coming up. And everything that is decided is going to be based on this July 16th decision that's on appeal right now. So what did the July 16th, 2021 decision do? So let's talk about current DACA recipients. What does it mean to current DACA recipients? If you currently have DACA and it's unexpired, your DACA case remains valid. The people who currently have DACA can still enjoy the DACA protection and work authorization that have been granted by USCIS. People who currently have DACA, nothing has already changed with your approved DACA case. And this means that DACA renewals continue. There's no need to worry about your case not being renewed. For people who have DACA now or who have had DACA in the past that are currently eligible to renew, they can do so. However, something important that I'd like to note about renewals for cases that have been pending for over a year. For cases of DACA that have been pending for over a year, when you submit a renewal, it is not considered a renewal. It is considered an initial application for DACA all over again. So like we did in the beginning, when you would send documents of your schooling and physical presence every 3 months to prove that you've been physically present from June 2007 till the law was passed in June 2012. All that documentation, you're required to submit it again because after 1 year of it being expired, it's considered an initial application. Now, why is this important? And that's because the court decision that was made really affects initial DACA applications. So what is happening with first-time DACA applications? So first-time DACA applications are currently on hold. No new DACA applications will be approved at this time. So if your initial application was submitted to USCIS, USCIS will hold on to your case until there is a determination on what happens to the DACA program. So that means that if you submitted your application, I don't know, let's say a month or two before the court decision, which was July of 2021, and your case was pending, maybe you already got receipt notices, maybe you did your fingerprints, but your case wasn't approved just yet. Unfortunately, all those cases are currently on hold. And what USCIS is actually not allowed to approve those cases. They don't have the jurisdiction to approve those cases. So as I was touching earlier, for those DACA renewals, when the DACA status has expired for over a year, those applications are considered initial applications. And like I said right now, unfortunately, initial applications are not being processed. USCIS does not have the power to approve them. This is just another reason why it's very, very important for anyone that has DACA status to submit timely renewal applications. Because if you let that DACA status expire for over a year, right now, with the way that the law is, you won't be able to get a new DACA approved at this time. That being said, regarding the determination of DACA for the future, you can file an initial DACA application right now. However, like I mentioned before, these applications are on hold. So immigration can receive the application and the fee. However, they will hold on to them. So if you might have sent your application and you haven't gotten a receipt yet, it might be because they are receiving the applications, but they're not allowed to process them. And so nothing is going to be determined, or no action is going to be taken on the case until after the court decision. So let's talk about that court decision, the appeal of the Texas case before the Fifth Circuit. So the Texas case that deemed DACA illegal in July of 2021 is currently up on appeal. The Fifth Circuit Court will make the ultimate decision whether the DACA program is legal or not. Now, we don't know what the decision is going to be on the program, but we can talk about potential outcomes and what we could expect would happen because of these outcomes. So one outcome, and it's an outcome that all of us immigration advocates are hoping for, is that the Fifth Circuit determines that the DACA program is lawful. If this is the case, DACA would be reinstated to how it was when the executive power was announced on June 15, 2012. So the same decision, the same program will be reinstated as it was in June 15, 2012. This would be ideal. This would mean that the DACA program would continue not only for renewals, but that new initial applications would be accepted, and all those pending applications that are on hold with the government are finally going to be processed, and people will have the opportunity to, new people that haven't had DACA will have the opportunity to apply for the benefit for the first time, given that they have the eligibility and evidence. However, there is room for appeal. So there is a possibility of the Fifth Circuit determining that DACA is lawful and that decision is appealed. That appeal would be made to the U.S. Supreme Court, but the U.S. Supreme Court will be the one that decides whether they hear the case or not. Another potential outcome, and we need to talk about this potential outcome, is that the Fifth Circuit determines that DACA is unlawful. If this happens, the DACA program as we know it will end. And what does this mean? This means that people that currently have DACA status and current work authorization, that status will be valid for the duration of their current work permit and or DACA status. But it would only be valid until it expires. So if that would be the situation, it means that if your DACA expires in a year or so, then unfortunately, once it expires, you wouldn't be able to renew your DACA status. So USCIS will be unable to renew any applications for DACA or receive any new applications for advanced parole based on DACA. Once again, this decision can be appealed to the Supreme Court. However, like I said earlier, the Supreme Court has the discretion to accept or not any case that's presented before them. Obviously, we don't want this decision to come out, but it's a decision that we need to talk about. So when are things happening? How will we know what's going on? Where are we in the timeline of things? So on July 6th of this year, July 6th, 2022, there will be hearings from both sides where they will both sides will be making arguments for the appeal on July 6th before the Fifth Circuit. After those arguments are made, the judge will come out with a written decision regarding his decision on whether the DACA program is lawful or not. Now, it's important to note that the decision will not come out on the same day, and that there is no real due date on when this decision will be published. Just as something to compare it to, the goal of the court is 60 days. That is the goal that the court has set for themselves of when they want this decision to be announced. However, that last DACA decision that we're talking about from July 2021, it took 7 months for that decision to be made and published. So we really don't know when that decision is going to be published, and we're all going to know. What we do know is that July 6th is the day that these arguments are going to be made. So it's really important to keep an eye out on everything happening after this date, July 6th. So what's next for DACA and what's next for Dreamers? We're going to talk about a lot of different points of what we think DACA and Dreamers and DACA advocates can do next. There are a couple of things you can do. Obviously, if you're a DACA recipient, the most important thing you can do is renew your DACA before it expires. This is very important to extend your DACA status for another 2 years. We're going to touch on the benefit called advanced parole and how, if you qualify, this could be a potentially beneficial option for DACA recipients' immigration cases. And we'll explain that in depth. We're also going to talk about consultations with immigration attorneys and representatives about what other immigration options are available for you, and what are your options if, for example, you do get advanced parole, and how that might change your case. And last but not least, for DACA advocates and for DACA recipients and anyone, what steps to take to advocate for Congress to take action. So let's start with advanced parole. In advanced parole, what is it? Advanced parole is a travel document that's issued by USCIS, by the immigration, that allows certain immigrants to travel outside the United States and return lawfully. This is what advanced parole is. It's a way for somebody to leave the country and be able to come back. And so we'll talk about why that's important. But for now, I want to talk about what are the factors to be considered when applying for advanced parole. And we're going to keep it focused on the DACA scope of things, because advanced parole is an immigration benefit that is not only limited to DACA recipients. You can also do it as an asylee. You can do it as a TPS holder. There's a lot of ways to do an advanced parole and permission to re-enter. But today we're focusing on advanced parole in the lenses of DACA and how it applies to DACA recipients. So step one of the factors to be considered is that you need to have DACA. You need to be a DACA recipient. It needs to be active, unexpired. So that's the first step. Number two is you need to have a reason to travel with advanced parole. So we'll touch a little bit on what these reasons can be, but USCIS, for them to allow you, you need to have a travel reason. And so they break it down in three major reasons or purposes of why somebody might apply to advanced parole to travel abroad. And those are educational reasons, humanitarian reasons, and employment purposes. And we'll touch base in another slide on what does this mean? What type of examples can we give about these reasons for travel? Two other factors to consider when talking about advanced parole is criminal history and immigration history. And this has more to do on the ability to even get the advanced parole approved. You want to make sure that if you're applying for advanced parole, that your criminal history is as clean as possible. If you have any criminal history, advanced parole may not even be an option for you. Advanced parole is a benefit that is stricter than a DACA application. So they look at a lot of different factors that they don't look at when approving a DACA case. So if you have anything on your record when you're applying for this or when you're actually doing the consultation, it's really important for you to discuss this with your attorney or with your representative. Immigration history also has a lot of weight in the eligibility of someone for advanced parole. So we're talking about any immigration detentions, immigration deportations, multiple exits and entries to the United States. All of this needs to be disclosed. We need to be aware of it to make a better decision for you to see if advanced parole is something that could be beneficial for you. So let's talk a little bit about the reasons for travel. So what are some examples of each subsection on the reasons for travel? So humanitarian, which is what we see the bulk of, is you telling the government that my reason for leaving the country is humanitarian because I need to either visit a family member that's sick, so visit an ailing relative. This could be anyone close to you, like a grandparent or a parent that you haven't seen in a long time and they've fallen ill and you want to be able to visit them. This would be a humanitarian reason. Also, introducing children to grandparents. Sometimes there's unfortunate situations where because the grandparents can't come to the United States and the parents can't leave the United States, there's a separation of families and generations that is extremely sad. And this could be another reason to apply for an advanced parole document based on humanitarian reasons. You tell the government, I want my daughter to be able to meet her grandmother or grandfather. That's a humanitarian reason. There's also things like funerals. So if a close family member that you hadn't seen for a while, or if you did, but that their funeral services are outside of the United States, you can apply for an advanced parole document like this. And then there's things that aren't really tied to family per se, that could also be considered humanitarian. So volunteer projects, like if you volunteer or a member of a church, let's say, to provide an example, and they have a volunteer project in Mexico, building houses, for example. That could be a volunteer project that is considered a humanitarian reason to travel. There's also medical treatments that are unobtainable for you here in the US for whatever reason, but you could access abroad. So that's another humanitarian reason for traveling. Now, when we're talking about education reasons for traveling, these are very straightforward. These are if you are currently enrolled in a school that, for example, is going to give you a study abroad program opportunity to be in Mexico or Europe for a month or two or a summer or a semester. This could be a reason to apply for advanced parole. For academic research, if you were going to do field research in an outside country, this could also be a reason for advanced parole. And as well as we touched before, volunteer projects. So if you're volunteering with an organization in your university and they're going to have an event project outside of the country, you can also apply for education reasons in this particular example. The last but not least is a business reason for travel. These are less common, but are also worth noting. Any overseas assignments in your work, any interviews that you need to attend outside of the country, or conferences or specialized trainings or meetings with clients. If those business actions need to happen outside of the country, then this is another way that you could apply for advanced parole. So there's a lot of ways, and these are just examples. It's not limited to, you could really, when you're making your case, you can argue why the particular reason you want to travel fits into one of these three sections. Now, why are we talking about advanced parole? What are the benefits of advanced parole? There's two main benefits. And the first and very obvious one is the ability to travel abroad. Most DACA recipients have entered since they were very young, hence the name of the program, and have not left the country for a long time. So the ability to travel abroad to either visit your home country or travel around the world for X, Y, or Z purposes is a big benefit for a lot of people. However, the biggest benefit that we think advanced parole has is that when you come back, it grants you a lawful entry into the United States. And a lawful entry into the United States can greatly change the nature of your immigration case and your eligibility to immigration remedies. And let's touch base on that. We're going to talk a little bit, before we touch base on that, we're going to talk about the risk of advanced parole because this is equally important. So we don't want to present advanced parole as a program that doesn't have any risks, that is a risk-free application. There is risk involved, and the risk involved is that you might apply for advanced parole, you might have your reasons, you submitted your evidence, you did your job, and the advanced parole application gets approved. That's great. But you need to be aware that when you go on your trip and when you come back, it is up to that Border Patrol officer or US Customs officer to admit you into the country. So individuals who are granted advanced parole will generally be admitted into the country by US Customs and Border Patrol. Unless, and these are big unlesses, and that's why we say that it's so important to have a consultation with an attorney or accredited representative. If you have any of these factors, it could potentially jeopardize your ability to actually come back to the country, even though your advanced parole application was approved. So the factors are crimes. So at the border, Border Patrol agents have access to a different set of databases to determine if you have had any encounters with the law. So they will be checking for any criminal history that you might have using their own systems. If something is seen there that might have not been caught by USCIS or you might have not disclosed, that could greatly affect your ability to come back to the country, even though the advanced parole was approved. Immigration history could also affect your ability to come back to the country. So although USCIS will approve advanced parole for individuals with multiple unlawful entries, depending on how many times you've entered and what date you entered in and how you entered, you could potentially have unlawful presence bars in your case that could be an issue when you return. So this is all very nuanced, I understand, and this is why it's important to seek a consultation. But depending on the dates of when you entered and came back to the US, and if you got caught and returned or re-entered, different things in your case can be triggered. And that Border Patrol officer, the customs officer at the border determining whether you can enter or not, can use this history and make a decision based on that, on whether or not to admit you back into the country. Other issues could be inadmissibility offenses. So if they find on their records that there has been fraud in the past, if there has been misrepresentations in the past or false claims to US citizenship in the past, this could potentially bar you from being able to re-enter the United States. So this is very important to know because these are the risks that advanced parole poses, which is why it's always the best to be as informed as possible if advanced parole is an option for you. So how does the process for advanced parole look? The first thing you can expect from the process is you have to contact an attorney or Department of Justice accredited representative. You have to meet with them and have a consultation with them so that you can assess your eligibility for advanced parole and know if there are any risks associated with your particular case. It's very important to remember that everyone's immigration case is different. It's like a fingerprint. No one else has the same immigration case that you do. So meeting with an attorney or accredited rep is crucial to know if you, based on your immigration history, are eligible to apply to advanced parole and what the risks are. If one of these attorneys or DOJ reps have told you that you are eligible and that there are minimal to no risks, then you start the application process, and that means gathering documents. You need to gather evidence to support the reason that you stated for your travel. So if you're studying abroad and that's your reason for travel, you need to collect the evidence of, I don't know, the curriculum of the classes that you will be taking in Madrid for the summer, or the acceptance letter from the University of Guadalajara for you to take a course with them in the summer. Evidence that you've been approved and that you're going for that reason. Likewise, if it's for humanitarian reasons and you have a family member that passed or is very sick, hospital records would be beneficial. Death certificates would be beneficial. Anything that is proof that the reason that you are going is the reason that you are going is going to be the evidence that you'll use for the advanced parole application. Other than this, you need to have a passport, and this is something that you can get with your country of origin's embassy. So if you are Mexican, there's a Mexican embassy here in San Diego by Little Italy, and you can apply for a passport and have your Mexican passport. But you need to have your country of origin's passport because you will need that to travel back. You will also need 2 passport photos and a filing fee of $575, which can be paid either by credit card using Form G1450, or it can be a money order that's attached. Obviously, including with all of this are all the immigration forms, including the advanced parole one, which is Form I-131. So you create your packet with your attorney, you submit your packet. After you submit your packet, immigration will send you a receipt notice telling you that the case is pending and that it's actively being reviewed. And later they will process the case and issue a decision, either an approval or a denial. I was just checking what the average processing times for advanced parole documents are right now in 2022. And USCIS states that 7.2 months is around the time it takes for them to process these applications. It could be less, it could be more. That's just the average that USCIS is giving us. So once your advanced parole document is approved, then you actually travel. So you travel to your destination. When you apply for advanced parole, you would have set what are the dates that you intend to travel in. So you make sure that you travel within the dates that you agreed with USCIS, and also obviously for the reasons that you stated you were traveling, and that you return to the US before the advanced parole document expires. So this is give or take the whole process of advanced parole. Now, I did talk about how important advanced parole was because it granted you a lawful entry and the importance of that. And the importance of that is because it opens doors to other forms of relief. So when somebody enters the United States unlawfully, for the vast majority of cases, that person is not allowed to apply for what we call an adjustment of status application, which is a green card application inside the United States. The person generally has to go to their country of origin to do that consulate interview and get their green card granted abroad. Now, this is generally speaking, there are minor exceptions, but for the vast majority of individuals, if you have an unlawful entry, you cannot fix your papers inside the United States. So that means that if you have a child who's over 21 or a spouse that's a US citizen and they intend to petition you, sometimes the only thing blocking that application from moving forward is the fact that you don't have a lawful entry to the United States. So that is where advanced parole is crucial, because it opens that door of having a lawful entry, which means that you can apply for these benefits while within the United States. So it changes your immigration case tremendously. And what are these forms of relief? Let's talk about them real quick. So obviously you need to consult an attorney or DOJ accredited representative, whether you qualify for these, but I wanted to list them out for you guys so you can get familiar with them. The most common one is applying for a green card. This is what we were just talking about, adjustment of status. This can be done abroad, but the one we're focusing on obviously is within the United States. And applying for a green card can come from a family member, or it can also be an employment-based adjustment of status. So you need to be petitioned by either a family member or an employer for you to apply for a green card. This is a I-130 petition, which is a family petition, and eventually an I-485 petition, which is the application for adjustment of status. There are also, even though applying for a green card through family employment, these are the biggest bulk of types of ways of people to apply for residency are. So the vast majority of people get their immigration status through family or employment via petition while they're applying for a green card. However, there's also different types of special humanitarian visas available out there. And these are for victims of crimes, generally speaking. There is a U visa, which is for people that have been victims of certain crimes who cooperate with law enforcement. So these crimes need to have happened inside the United States for you to be eligible for this. And you need to be certified of that crime by the law enforcement agency. There's VAWA, that is for victims of domestic violence, so violence against women's side, at the hands of a US citizen or resident. And there's also T visas for people that are victims of human trafficking in the United States. There's also other forms of immigration benefits, such as special immigrant juvenile status, which is for minors that have been abused, abandoned, or neglected that are here in the United States. And there is the other side of immigration, which is court relief, which is an immigration judge granting you an immigration relief for you to be able to remain in the United States. So these are, this is a very compacted list of the many immigration options that could be available for you that you might not know about. You might have DACA and think that for now that's it, but law changes a lot. And so going to a consultation and seeing if advanced parole can benefit you to access some of these forms of relief is extremely beneficial. So like we said, the first step to all of this is to prepare for a consultation. And consultations are very information dense. There's a lot to discuss in these consultations. So you need to prepare for your consultation with either an attorney or a Department of Justice accredited representative by having the following information and or documentation with you. So you need to know how many entries you've had into the United States, how many times you've come into the United States, how many times you've left, and the dates of when this happened. We need to know if there's any past petitions that have been made on your behalf that we should be aware of. You need to know and tell us if there's any immigration court history that we should be aware of. So if you talked to a judge before, we need to know these things. If you happen to have an immigration number, a USCIS number, or a number, it's important for us to have that information because we can look up in our systems to see if anything pops up in like court systems, for example. We need to know of any contact with immigration officials. So this could be from when you were somebody was attempting to cross the border and were caught, or inside the United States already by ICE. Any contact with immigration officers, and I want to add any contact with police, we need to know, because these are key details that will tell us if you're eligible for help or not. We also, important as well, we need to know what your employment and address history is. And usually for applications is the last 5 years, some go beyond that. But it's important for you to be knowledgeable of where you used to live, where you used to work, where the addresses and what were the dates. So this is all the information that you might have inside in your head, in your memory. But if you don't, it's good to see this and be like, okay, this is what I need to have for when I talk to my attorney. So when you're in the consultation with an attorney or a DOJ rep, you will want to know the following. So you want to leave that consultation knowing a couple of things. You're going to want to know, do you have a remedy available to you right now? Is there something you can apply for right now? And if there is, what is the process for moving forward with this case? What do I need to do? What do I need to file? How does it look like for me to move forward with this case? And if there are no remedies currently available, do you have any court remedies available? Is immigration court an option for you if a situation like that should arise? So these are things that you need to leave the consultation knowing. You need to know if you have something that you could apply for right now. Now, moving on a little bit to what DACA advocates and anyone really, what we can do next with our leaders. It's very important for us to let our leaders know that we want the DACA program to remain. It's important for you to contact your representative. We have here a list of how you can find your local House of Representatives member to really let them know to protect DACA, to protect dreamers, and to support overall immigration reform. We want overall immigration reform, but right now it's the dreamers and the DACA holders that are under attack with this case. And it's very important to stay involved and raise your voice. DACA recipients and their allies need to demand that the Biden administration protect DACA. And we need to tell Congress to finally provide a permanent and inclusive solution for all undocumented immigrants here in the United States. It's not just the DACA recipients. I believe from the top of my head, there's around 650,000 current DACA recipients. But there are 11 million undocumented people here in the United States, and we need an answer. We need solutions and policy and immigration reform for these people that are just as important in the community as anyone else. So one last thing I wanted to talk about before we get into questions and answers, and this is very important. With topics like immigration, unfortunately, a lot of immigration fraud is out there. And it's something that really affects a lot of people. And it's something that we always want to inform the community about. And how to avoid fraud. And if you have been a victim of fraud, how to report this abuse of fraud. So how to avoid fraud. And this is something that I have talked about for many years. Prior to working with anyone on preparing your application, it's very important to know that there are only two entities that can legally represent you for your immigration case. One is an immigration attorney, and preferably an immigration attorney, because although any other attorney could file the paperwork for you, they not necessarily have the knowledge of immigration if they're not immigration attorneys. So you want to make sure that if you talk to an attorney, that they're an immigration attorney. And the other entity is Department of Justice accredited representatives, such as myself. Accredited reps have been approved by the Department of Justice and the Executive Office of Immigration Review to represent people before immigration court if they're fully accredited, or before USCIS if they're partially accredited. So they can represent you just like an attorney can. Outside of these two entities and groups of people, nobody else can legally represent you in your case. And so here at the border, we see a lot of notarios. We see a lot of businesses saying they're notarios, that they will complete the papers for you. And these people are working and representing people illegally. So we really advocate for you guys to not receive services from notarios, to always check for credentials. And it's really easy to do so. If you see some links here, if you go to calbar.ca.gov, you can check who's an attorney, and you can check what their status is, if they're active. You can check if there's any disciplinary actions, like if they had warnings or if they had their license suspended for a while. You can check all of that in calbar.gov. For checking whether somebody is a legal representative before the Department of Justice, you can go to justice.gov/DOIR, and you can actually not only find Alliance San Diego, for example, you can find the organization that's accredited, but then you can even find the individual that's accredited by the Department of Justice to provide these legal services. So if you were to go today, you'd find Alliance San Diego there, and you'd find my name there, Hector Oviedo, as a accredited representative for Alliance San Diego. I've already talked about identifying areas of expertise about immigration attorneys, making sure they're immigration attorneys, but it goes even beyond that. Sometimes immigration is such a vast and complex subject that there's even specializations within immigration. So you wouldn't want to go to a law firm that specializes in employment visas for your asylum case, because even though they're an immigration attorney, they specialize in a process that has nothing to do with the complexities of asylum. Just like if you were going somewhere that specializes in citizenship and only does citizenship primarily, you wouldn't want to go and get a consultation for advanced parole or DACA. So you want to know that the people you are working with, even though that you check their credentials and you see they're legit, you want to know that these people also have the area of expertise in the benefit that you're seeking. After all of that, and you've identified that person, it's always important to get a written contract. Every reputable organization firm will give you a written contract where all your client responsibilities or rights are dictated, and you sign that and you have a copy. And also you will be getting copies of everything from your representative. So a copy of the contract, a copy of the application itself, you should be getting that. So these are just some tips for avoiding fraud when dealing with any immigration issue beyond just DACA. And so how can we help? How can Alliance San Diego help? We currently offer free immigration consultations to everyone. So if you are eligible for the service that you're being consulted on, we will also provide free legal representation on your application. Currently, ASD Alliance San Diego does not charge a single penny for anyone we represent. Obviously, the client, has to pay the immigration fees that are associated, but the actual representation, we provide it all for free. So the first step is, if you are interested in our services, please give us a call, and we can schedule a free immigration consultation for you to see if you qualify for any of these benefits like we were talking about today, advanced parole. And if you're eligible, you can receive free representation from Alliance. There's our phone number. This is my direct phone number, 619-690-347. If you wanted to contact me to schedule a consultation, I will gladly take your call, and we will see if we can represent you. Now, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And I wanted to introduce to you all my colleague, Erica Clark. She will be reading everyone's questions and fielding them. Anything you have to ask, this is the time right now.
Good afternoon, everyone. We do have a couple of questions, Hector, and just a reminder to everyone, If you have a question, you can drop it in the chat and we'll address it, or you can use the Q&A function. Either one works. So the first question is from Laura. She asks, if DACA is reinstated, what would happen with new applications that were accepted by USCIS? I sent my daughter's application on June 1st of 2021 and received a letter that it was accepted by the USCIS offices just 1 week before the program was suspended.
Thank you for asking that question, Laura, I believe it was. And I'm really sorry in the timing of the application to your daughter. If the DACA program, to answer your question, is reinstated, then that application will resume. So right now it's currently on hold. There is no action that can be taken on it. So let's say you got the receipt, maybe not yet the fingerprints. If you just got the receipt and DACA gets reinstated, the program will begin again. So this application will continue to run, and eventually she will get her fingerprint appointment and eventually a decision on that case. A lot of people are stuck in a situation like this. We've unfortunately encountered, we have multiple clients that we submitted their applications in June, May of 2021. And right now they're all currently on hold, waiting on a decision on the program.
Okay. And then we also have a question from Alma. She asked, I would like to know if it's a good idea to file online for the DACA renewal. What are your thoughts on that?
Filing online is always, it always seems like a very beneficial idea because you don't have to physically mail anything out. And your receipt notice is issued that same day when you click submit on your computer. However, for us, we always like to do paper filings. We always like to do physical filings because we can track the mail and we have physical copies of what we submitted. Whereas if you do it online, you don't have a real copy of the application that was submitted. We've also experienced clients telling us that they've had difficulties just with how the website works with immigration in terms of explaining certain situations in the application that are outside of the regular PDF format. We've encountered clients telling us, I tried to put that I have a third name used, but the box wasn't allowing me because of the format, so I couldn't figure it out. The online system is definitely glitchy and might have bugs. So we always recommend doing physical filings. Not to say that the online filings don't work, but I think most organizations and firms do paper filings because we can track it and we control when it was sent, we control how it was sent, etc.
Okay, and that's all the questions that we have for now. If anyone has any last minute questions, just drop it in the chat. Otherwise, we are good on the questions, Hector.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Erika. Thank you, everyone, for attending today's presentation. It was something that we really wanted to discuss with you all. And just know that Align San Diego is a resource to you. So our website is open for everyone. Our phone numbers, our emails. You see there that Erica put in the chat how you can sign up to receive human rights updates from us so you can know what's going on. Please sign up for those, and please reach out if you think you might qualify for advanced parole or any other immigration relief. We're here to be a resource to the community. So thank you everyone for attending and have a very nice evening.